Black people, we've got to fight. John Petro, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Zumbi, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Yes, Santa, why you see us? Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Bookman, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh,
we have to have the courage to construct our own reality. And that's what Garvey was talking about. Because he said he looked around, he didn't see what he thought should be there, and so what did he do? He didn't get depressed about it. He didn't get defeated about it. He said, I'm gonna build the government that we need to have. Ooh, where do you get that kind of boldness from? So we gotta go all the way back to Garvey, who said he would come again. He said he would be here with us, no matter how long it took. And I'm telling you that the way he comes back is in our work. Not honoring him in words, pomp and all of that stuff, but honoring him through doing what he did. How many of us have the courage to do that? The man took on the world for us and in our name. And then we come to Sodai. And in this presentation of the paradigm, I'm going to make this like what it is we want to reach. So Sodai is translated clear word in Dogana language. And I use it to mean that here we gain understanding. This is sight with understanding. And it is seeing beyond what just we think we see with this physical thing. It's seeing beyond that. And so we gain vision, because that's what vision is. With vision, you've got to be able to use the imagination. The imagination informed by the African spirit. And Brother Amos, who I work very closely with, was a good friend of mine. He taught me, and he would talk about imagination. Image a nation. Do you see? But that's got to be part of vision. To be a visionary, you got to see beyond this box here. You got to see beyond the ma'afa. You got to see what is it that our people rightfully should have, and that's what Garvey did. Garvey had a vision.
Tendai Mwadi, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai, Mudzimu, Mukuru. We give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodie, African power and African liberation for all African people. Greetings and welcome, brothers and sisters, on this, the 22nd of the month they call January. Yes, indeed, we are here, brothers and sisters. And we've been addressing this all week, and we're going to continue to because it's necessary to address the recent pardoning of the most honorable, the most eminent, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey by outgoing President Joe Biden, brothers and sisters, from various different angles. And so we want to make know that we have one of the most important shows and one of the most important angles coming to you today with one of the most important guests that we have featured on Kimbunga Media, brothers and sisters. And yes, indeed, I do not say that to flatter our guests. It's just the truth. And when you hear her, you're going to know that what I'm saying is the truth, brothers and sisters. So for now, we just want you to make sure that you like the video as you come through and share the link far and wide. Make the people them know that Shakara is live with the one and only Sister Nkechi Taifa, attorney at law, attorney at war. The Black Power lawyer, brothers and sisters, is here in the building tonight. And we're going to be hearing from her. This is her first time on Kimbunga Media, but I'm sure it will not be her last. So share the link far and wide. Share the link far and wide, brothers and sisters. This is a very, 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 very important show, brothers and sisters. All right. In fact, you know what? Without further ado, let me bring through our mama, our sister, our warrior lawyer, warrior scholar in the building. And it's interesting because I have had the pleasure, in fact, of being acquainted with the work of our mama since I was a child, through her book, Shining Legacy, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed, Shining Legacy was big in the home, and we, through our children's programs in the Al-Qaeda revivalist movement, was feasting off the wellspring of the work of our mama, our sister, from that time until now. I want to say Tendai Mwari, greetings and welcome to a sister, attorney Nkechi Taifa. Greetings and welcome, mama.
Greetings, Karibu. I am just thrilled. Boy, you just brought me back to nostalgia talking about Shining Legacy from when you were a child. Hey,
Yes.
intergenerational, the struggle continues. How are you, my brother?
Absolutely. I'm fine, thank you. I should begin by congratulating you on your new president and your new
Not mine.
well, I'm hearing that this is the beginning of your new golden age over there in the United States of America. So it's a cause for celebration apparently, but say it, go.
Age of fascism.
Yes, mama. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. As well as being an activist. And we don't have time today to just get into your activist history. I know I would love to, and another day we'll make some time for that because your story and your history in this movement is deep rooted, and our people need to know who you are. But for the sake of today, our people need to know that you were instrumental and integral to the campaign for the exoneration and or the pardoning of the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. We're going to get into the distinction of those terms as we get into our show today. But to begin with, I thought it would be good just to provide our viewing audience an understanding of the process. And I was really good. I really want to focus on the Obama years up until now, because I know that there was a particular push in the Obama years. But if you want to, feel free to touch on anything prior to that period as well, because we know that this campaign is a very, very long-standing one. So what is it our people need to know about the history of this campaign?
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for bringing me on to discuss this historic scenario that just occurred with respect to our dear great honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. And no, this is not something that just happened overnight. It did not even just start with the Biden administration or even the Obama administration. I mean, the UNIA for decades upon decades has been talking about justice for the right excellency, the honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. The family has been talking about it for decades, and for decades. So when the issue of Garvey first became popularized to me, I was a teenager, actually, and I happened to be 70 years old now, 70. So that was
Wow.
a long time. Hey,
The whole audience just dropped off their chair. Just tripped off if they were walking.
yeah,
Go ahead, Mama. Go ahead.
yeah. And so when I learned about Garvey, actually, was from the Temple of the Black Messiah, Reverend Shakamusa Baba Shango, back then
Ashe.
in the early 70s, very early 70s. I'm saying, why is it that I did not learn about this in school? Okay. And he was one of the main reasons why I did write that book way back then, Shining Legacy Story Poems for and Tales for the Young, so Black Heroes Forever Will Be Sung. And Marcus Garvey was one of those, because what I wanted to do was highlight those from our history who were the freedom fighters, who were the resistors, not just the Martin Luther King and the George Washington Carver. You know how great they were.
Yep.
Our history books did not focus on the freedom fighters, of which Marcus Garvey was. So, in 2016. Under the aegis of Dr. Julius Garvey, the youngest son of Marcus Messiah Garvey, there was a very influential press conference that was held in Washington at the National Press Club building that included himself. It included Professor Justin Hansford. It included Ambassador Atala Shabazz, the daughter of Ilhaj Malika Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X. It included our dear sister Gulda Downer with the Caribbean Political Action Committee at Howard University. It included Brother Keto Swan from Howard University as well. It included our dear phenomenal brother Mel Foote with the constituency for Africa, and of course included Dr. Julius Garvey. And this was brought together with a coalition that had been working on an exoneration, also known as pardon. We'll get into that in a moment, for Marcus Garvey. The law firm of Aiken Gump, with Tony Pierce, at that particular time. Congressman John Conyers provided a statement at that influential press conference. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke provided a statement. Congressman Kwesi Mfumi was in the audience. So all of this came on the heels of
sorry, sister. He also spoke, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Kwesi Mfumi. He also spoke.
Yes, he spoke from the audience. Yes, we had Q&A, and he spoke very eloquently from the audience. And actually, there is a tape. I'll start circulating that on social media of that historic press conference during the Obama administration. At that time, calling for a posthumous pardon. And if I may just say something about that, I would like to. First of all, pardons, posthumous pardon, meaning after death, posthumous after death pardons are extremely rare in U.S. history. In fact, prior to several days ago, the posthumous pardon of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, there had only been 3 posthumous pardons in U.S. history. The first being from President Clinton. He pardoned a Black man. His name was Henry O. Flipper, who was a military person who was convicted unjustly and unceremoniously, whatever it's called, demilitarized, or whatever it is called. And he had been born in slavery. And Clinton in 1998 granted the first posthumous pardon to him. In 2008, President George W. Bush pardoned someone named Charlie Winter, who was convicted under the 1939 Neutrality Act for his role in helping Israel. Well, anyway, he got a pardon. And then Trump, the Trump administration, Trump pardoned heavyweight boxer Jack Johnson. Okay. What was Jack Johnson's crime? A violation, so-called, of the Mann Act for transporting, quote unquote, a woman across state lines, a white woman, for moral purposes. That happened to be his wife. Okay. So the fact that the campaign and the struggle for a posthumous pardon for Marcus Garvey is something that we must see as nothing other than totally and completely major. Okay. Because again, he was only the 4th, and Marcus Garvey was a Black nationalist. Okay. freedom fighter, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
creator of the red, black, and the green, buy black, you know, everything that your audience already knows all about Garvey. So
Mm-hmm.
I was working very closely with the Obama administration back then during those days, working on issues of clemency in general and commutations for those who were primarily victims of the drug war. And as part of that, I also knew about the campaign for a posthumous pardon for Henry O. Flipper. Um, uh, and I'm thinking, and I'm not the only one who's thinking this, because other people were thinking this too. Well, why
Mm-hmm.
not for Marcus Messiah Garvey? So I
Right.
teamed up with Justin Hansford, and I first found Justin. He was a recent law school grad, or he might have still been in law school, and he had
Mm-hmm.
just written a paper or something huge on Garvey, and you know we immediately clicked. So then it was just years later when I joined the team. That was part of the law firm Aiken Gum, Justin Hansford, Golden Downer, of course, Dr. Julius Garvey, to
Yep.
seek to do something similar
Right.
to what Obama did with Flipper with Marcus Garvey.
Yep.
So let me just talk about this whole dichotomy between exoneration and
Yeah.
pardon. The elephant in the room, shall
The
I say?
elephant in the room
Everybody's
there.
talking about a pardon when we
Yeah,
exonerate Garvey. Well, let me
that's
just tell
right.
you, we only
Yeah.
talking about the English language. We
Mm-hmm.
did exonerate Garvey. We
Mm-hmm.
must use our self-determination
Yes.
to call it what in our hearts and minds what it was. We
Yep.
exonerated him. But I just want to be clear about something.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the word pardon seems to
Yep.
know, oh, I pardon me, I apologize for this or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Again, posthumous pardons are very rare. Not one of the persons who have received posthumous pardons in the past were guilty of the actual
Mm-hmm.
thing in which they were accused
Right.
of. I ain't gonna speak about the white guy. I don't know what he was doing with Israel, but let's just say Henry Flipper, Jack
Yeah.
Johnson, and
Yes.
Marcus
Yes.
Garvey.
Yes.
None of them, and none in anybody's minds who was fighting for that posthumous pardon was in
Right.
any inkling that we were talking about any type of acknowledgement of guilt or
Yeah.
anything along those lines. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
exoneration can only come about through Congress, through
Right.
congressional action.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon is called clemency. Clemency is in the realm of the executive, federal clemency. And under
Mm-hmm.
clemency, there are two areas. There are
Mm-hmm.
commutations and there
Mm-hmm.
are pardons.
Yep.
So the pardon, what we call the posthumous pardon, is
Mm-hmm.
even more rare. And as a result, there isn't a whole lot of legalese on it. There's not a
Right.
whole lot of written on it. So I'm saying we are writing it in ourselves as far as I'm
Right.
concerned for our
Okay.
heroes.
Okay. I understand, Mama. Thank you for that. And I was not aware of the fact that presidents could not grant exonerations prior to your email. So I learned something about the American legal system from that. Yeah. Now the okay. Before I ask that next question, just to get into the history a little bit, I think it might be beneficial for our viewing audience to understand a little bit more about the process because I know that there were members of the Black Congressional Caucus who were also charged with the responsibility of raising this issue. And then you all, as lawyers, as legal minds, would have had meetings with various different politicians. So what did all of that look like? What was the process there?
Yes, well, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from New York, from almost day one, has been lifting up the banner of an exoneration for Marcus Garvey. And I forgot the year it was. It was quite a while ago, long before 2016. And unfortunately, I don't know why I was not in the House of Representatives that day. But there was a huge hearing, a
Yes, yes, yes.
congressional hearing, of
Mhm.
which I think both Garvey sons were there
Were
at
there.
that time. Dr. Yasha Ben Jakanan
So
was there.
if I
Sure.
just to situate the year, I believe Baba Senghor said it was in 87 or something like that. Yeah. I could be wrong, but yeah, it was
That
it was
might
it
be
was a
about
while ago.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he
Go ahead.
was, Brother Senghor was there
Yeah,
in the
he was
room.
there.
I
Yes,
do
yes,
know
yes.
that. I mean,
Yeah,
countless people were there
yes.
calling for that
Mhm.
exoneration. Now, why didn't it happen? Well,
Yeah.
let's just say, from my humble opinion, I think it is far easier to convince one person to do something that only requires the stroke of a pen than a whole 435 people Congress, House and Senate, to do so. So that is one of the reasons why I put my legal acumen and my activism behind the posthumous party. Now, again, in my mind, as far as I'm concerned, we exonerated Garvey, and that I got that from UNIA. I got that term. And I heard it. I said, that's what self-determination is all about, to define ourselves, name ourselves, speak for ourselves, instead of having other people analyze things for us. So if we can own and claim that we did, in fact, exonerate Garvey, whether Biden signed that on the last full day of his presidency or not, we know what we did with respect to our leader, our hero, the great Right Excellency Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey.
Absolutely. And why did it not happen under our brother Obama?
That's a good question. A whole lot didn't happen under our brother Obama. Okay, he was seeing to do a whole lot of things. But I will say, in another one of the hats that I wear, we were able to get quite a number of commutation of sentences of people who were sentenced under the unjust crack versus powder cocaine laws. But we tried so very hard. And we just were not able to get it over the barrel. But again, it's rare. And one of the things that was said, because I had many meetings in the White House, not just with respect to Garvey, but just in terms of these issues in particular. And one of the things that was expressed is that they did not want the floodgates to open on issues of posthumous parties. I mean, how many more people? Hello, you know what I'm saying? There's a whole boatload of them. That's why I'm still fighting for reparations, for reparatory justice, because to me, that's one of the settlements of a reparation settlement or claim in terms of justice for our ancestors. So it didn't happen then. And we weren't sure up until the last minute, until it actually happened, that was going to happen there. But at the last minute, again, the Congressional Black Caucus members came out with a phenomenal letter. We were able to get letters of support from the Jewish community, because my understanding is one of the issues of hesitancy was because of statements that Mr. Garvey made with respect to during his bogus trial with respect to the Jewish community, which was totally bogus, totally taken out of context and all. But that was one of the things that was lifted up as a as a hesitancy. So we thought we were able to bring it over the line. And I even understand that Condoleezza Rice even weighed in.
Okay. All right. Well, lesson number 9 in the School of Africa, the course of African philosophy, as administered by the Most Honorable Marcus Garvey, is on diplomacy. So we need to applaud you for exercising lesson number 9 to full effect in relation to getting all those statements of support. And then on finally on this the historical element, I'm made to understand that there was a final push in December of last year to bring about what happened on the 19th of January this year. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So what did that entail?
Well, that was entail getting these letters of support. Unless you're speaking of something else. I mean, I'm not sure, but getting these letters of support, having high-level meetings with White House officials in the White House, high-level meetings with the Office of the Pardon Attorney, and the like. Dr. Garvey himself was just all over with respect to the media, just high level from international pressure, diplomatic, all of that. You need to have other people on. You need to have Golda Downer on, so she can talk about the role that she played with the Caribbean nations. Brother Justin Hansford on with the specifics of the legal part, the legality aspects of it, and of course, Dr. Julius Garvey. And I must say, if I may, I also wrote a memoir called Black Power, Black Lawyer, My Audacious Quest for Justice. And again, this came out in early 2020. And chapter 10 is called A Necessary Posthumous Pardon for Marcus Garvey. So it talks about that, in there. So I guess I'll just say, I want to do one more thing before, because I know you want to open up to the audience, but you mentioned my book, Shining Legacy. There is a poem that I did for the youth on Garvey that, if I can have the privilege of just sharing it.
I tell you what, man, let us close with that, because I know the poem very well. So let us close with that. All right, it's a beautiful piece.
Cool.
So yeah, all right, okay. I was asking you all those questions because I want people to understand the process. Yeah. And you are very able to explain that to us firsthand. So I want people to understand what goes into something like this.
Well, actually, there was a formal pardon petition that was filed. It was filed during the Obama administration, and it was refiled again during the Biden administration. So there's a formal process, for it. And again, it's not an acknowledgement of guilt. It's not an apology that says, "Oh, you did wrong, and we apologize for you." We whatever, relinquish you from your wrong. There was no wrongdoing, and a posthumous pardon does not iterate that. It just does not. And there've only been 4. Garvey was 4th. Folk can go back and research the other 3. Like I said, Jack Johnson, Henry O. Flipper, and I don't know about the white boy, but
all right,
we ain't gonna talk about that was Bush that pardoned him.
Okay, I guess from what you're saying, I gather from what you're saying though that there is no precedent for Congress granting an exoneration of anybody. Is that would that be accurate?
Well, actually, that's a good point. I do not know of an instance where Congress has actually exonerated anyone. I know the president has never exonerated one, because that's not a province. That's not within the toolkit of the presidential power. It's in the power of Congress. And so I cannot say definitively, but if there is a case, I
never come across it.
It has not come to my attention.
Right, I understand. So that's necessary context. Yeah, it's necessary for people to understand that. Yeah. Okay. So and just to emphasize the point that you made earlier, that the legalese around pardoning is very vague. So
very vague and very scant.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I just did a little Google search before I came on for posthumous pardon. All of Trump's pardons came up, Biden's pardons came, but not the posthumous. You know what I'm saying? I had to dig for the posthumous. So I think the posthumous pardon for Garvey has gained more attention than any of the other 3 that I've mentioned.
Okay, interesting.
So I have a feeling that this is going to be the start of a new era in terms of the calling out for posthumous pardons.
Which kind of brings me to my next question then. So what would you say for those of us who are, we want it to happen, but we're not invested too much in it, I'm saying, only because it's the American government, and we don't put too much traction in what the American government do or say. What would you say for us is the significance of this pardon then, politically and or legally? What is the significance of it for us as a people?
So let me just speak personally from the family right now. One of the reasons why I went this route is because that was the request of the family. Okay, Dr. Julius Garvey, they wanted to bring closure to the situation. They wanted some type of official acknowledgement, that there was governmental wrongdoing in this vicious frame up of their beloved family member. So that is one thing. As a people, to me, it shows that it is never too late to correct a historic wrong. Never too late. I've worked on the issue of reparations, and one of the things that always comes up from naysayers is that, too much time has passed. You can't, rectify, the past. Well, one of the things, in my humble opinion, this posthumous pardon, i.e. we exonerate Garvey, is doing for the movement is to show that it is never too late, to for historic justice to
Right.
to occur. And sometimes, you mentioned my book that came out in the early 80s, of which I
Mhm.
actually wrote in the late 70s. We
Mhm.
need a whole new generation,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
to know about these people. I have people in my own family, okay, young people, millennials, well, whatever the thing is under millennials, whatever, not the thing, but who had never heard of Garvey, despite the fact that I wrote a book that
Yeah, yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean, had never heard of Garvey, don't know his experience. So one of the things this has done is shine the spotlight again,
Mhm.
not just amongst the revolutionary fringe of which I
Yeah.
come from,
Mhm.
but it's been in the mass media. It's been international. I mean, I think this is doing more to elevate the significance of the Honorable Marcus Garvey than any of my little books, that I wrote or anything along those lines. And to me,
Yeah.
although this didn't come out in the in the posthumous pardon, but people can teach about this. The COINTELPRO, the predecessor to the FBI's once secret illegal program, counterintelligence program, was J. Edgar Hoover and the Bureau of Investigation, of which Marcus Garvey, the case of Marcus Garvey, was the first one that led to all of this targeting of Black leaders. And I must mention something about, there was a woman named Callie House who was the
Reparations
Robert
activist.
Garvey
Mhm.
movement, but she led the first mass-based reparations movement in
Mhm.
in the United States, and she
Yeah.
also was unjustly convicted of mail fraud and
Right.
sentenced to prison for a year and a day in 1920.
So is that our next case then? Is that our next
Well, it
campaign?
very well might be, because when they did come up with
Right.
respect
Right.
to
Right.
this, it came up with respect to the possibility of linking the two together. But there have been
Okay.
far, far, far more work that had been done over
On
the
the Garvey. Yeah.
decades
Yeah.
on
Yeah. Yeah.
Marcus Garvey. And
Absolutely.
so we're going to, let's say Callie House is next. Let's just put it
Right.
that way.
All right. All right. Okay. Okay. So what I hear you saying, that the value of this moment is not necessarily in what the U.S. government does or says, is but in what we do or say with
Yeah,
this particular political tool. Yeah.
yeah,
And I get that, because one of the things that I was concerned about, Mama, yeah, is the actual statement itself, because you're correct, right, in the sense of the fact that the family, and Dr. Julius Garvey himself, I've heard say, wanted some recognition of wrongdoing. The actual statement itself, yeah, as I'm sure you're aware,
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
say that, right?
yeah,
It's kind of like a brief obituary, right,
yeah. Yeah,
of who is
because I
Marcus
mean, what you
Garvey.
expect the
Right.
Chinese government to? I mean, I'm just saying, we
No,
got
no,
this
no. Right.
concession, then we need to write what
Right.
it would have said. It's
Right.
that's our place to do.
It's important for us. No, I get you. It's because I think it's important for us to note that, though, that even though the
Yeah,
pardon has come, they have not officially stated, listen, we set this man up and put him for a kangaroo court, and you know what I'm saying, and I think that we need to do that work. However, one thing I can say is that you spoke about the younger generation. And what I have experienced in the last few years is often when Marcus Garvey is being spoken about, his name is being slandered as a scammer, particularly within the context of people who are trying to create a divide between Africans from the United States and
hmm
Africans who are migrants to the United States. And
hmm
whenever that dynamic takes place, when Marcus Garvey seems to be a focal point, yeah,
hmm
of attack. And so this idea of his trial and conviction, and those who were in American society who were in fact African, who were supporting that conviction, has been used as a weapon against Papa Garvey. So I see in what you're saying that this pardoning now is good propaganda in the sense of the fact that it's now a weapon to challenge a lot of those arguments. Would that be correct?
I say absolutely, and a lot of those arguments is part of the brainwashing.
Right.
Okay, it's part of the brainwashing. We are injured people
Yeah.
mentally,
Mhm.
and so yes, but again, it's incumbent upon us to to paint the narrative the way it is supposed to be painted. That's on us to do. We exonerated him, and we need to use that. We can, as far as I'm concerned, we can even stop saying pardon with respect to Garvey. As far as I'm concerned, he's been exonerated. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I take your point. You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. You know, so thank you, Mama, for providing that context. One of the things that I know you watched the show that we held with the UNIA LCL leadership. One of the issues that we raised is the context of this pardon. Sorry, the meaning of this pardon within the context of the continued battle for justice in relation to political prisoners. Yeah, and which is a fight that I know that you're very familiar with. So I wonder if you could contextualize that as well from a legal point of view.
Yes. Well, within this slate of this was sentence commutation, came that of Leonard Peltier as well. Someone who I also was for decades have been advocating in support of his release.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was going to happen. It didn't happen until literally minutes before. And that was a hard one. And why that should have been a hard one, like Garvey, why should that have been a hard one? It's just, hard to fathom. But we have
not to interrupt you, don't forget your point. I just want to say for the audience that Leonard Peltier is an indigenous activist, a part of the original people, the First Nation peoples of America, who was charged and convicted with the murder of FBI agents. Essentially, FBI went and attacked, his community, and a lot of the community fought back, and as a result, he was charged and convicted and has spent the majority of his life in jail, often in solitary confinement. And I'm sure now that he's out, the telling of his story is going to be a monumental one, but I just wanted to give people an understanding of who Leonard Peltier is. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad you did, because I forget that this is an international
no problem
audience. And he spent 50 years in prison unjustly. He always proclaimed his innocence. But what is so ironic about it is, if it weren't for the Leonard Peltier's people, he is a native person, Sizzland, indigenous persons, white folk wouldn't even be here. I mean, I'm just saying, so the nerve, the gall, the audacity to deny him sentence commutation all of these years. And I need to mention something else, if I may.
Go ahead.
Just was today the first day of the Trump? I don't know, today or yesterday, whenever his first day was. He pardoned all of those white supremacists, quote unquote, who stormed the Capitol, insurrectionists who stormed the U.S. Capitol. He did not just commute their sentence; he actually pardoned them. All of those things that Biden did, most of those sentences was sentence commutation. And with Leonard Peltier, his sentence was commuted to time served, but he has to spend the rest of his life on home confinement. Now, juxtapose that with the January 6th white insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol. They did not receive just a sentence commutation. Their convictions were actually pardoned, meaning they can tomorrow go out and buy a firearm and go and do the same thing over again. So it's interesting. So even when we talk about a posthumous pardon for Marcus Garvey, most of the people who are, were part of the war on drugs, who were convicted and sentenced to these ridiculously long sentences, or victims of the COINTELPRO, our political prisoners, who we, struggled so hard, many of them, to get out of prison, did not receive a pardon. Okay. They only received like either a sentence commutation, or they got out on parole, or, and most of them were half dead. I mean, very elderly, and came home to die. So, something's wrong with that picture.
Absolutely. And so, we just want to say free them all. You know what I'm
Three or
saying?
more. What's it
And
called?
we're going to continue that. Free and more, free and
Three
more.
or
So
more.
we
Yeah.
have to continue that fight, yeah? And I'm asking you this, Mama, because I know you understand, but our people sometimes can be lulled into a state of complacency. You know, we get a bit of a win, and we start to think that, you know, the American establishment is now just and righteous and yeah, and you know, no longer imperialist and criminal in its relationship to African people. And I know that you understand this clearly, but again, we have to, you know, educate our people at the same time as well. And the other issue that this relates to is the issue of reparations and reparatory justice. Yeah. And so give us an understanding first of all. I've got a follow up question, Mark. Give us an understanding of how this pardon relates to the issue of reparatory justice in relation to African people.
Yes. Well, one of the things most folk don't realize is when in this country, in the United States, when the Japanese Americans received reparations in 1988 with the Civil Liberties Act, one of their provisions was $20,000 for each Japanese American detention camp survivor, a trust fund to educate Americans, a formal apology, and a pardon for all those who resisted detention camp. Resisted being put in detention camps. So that was part of a reparations package that the
Okay.
Japanese Americans received. So there is precedent for pardons for those who resisted, who resist the policies and practices of this country. So we've always said that that's part and parcel, it must be part and parcel of a reparations package. And I say a
Right.
reparations package or reparations settlement because no amount of monetary or policy or any type of relief can ever compensate for what we have been through the Holocaust of
Mhm.
our existence, what happened in the continent of Africa and throughout the whole diaspora. So it's a negotiated settlement, and releasing our political prisoners and prisoners of war must be part
Right.
of that settlement, that reparations settlement.
Now, on this subject, Mama, we know that a part of reparations. Well, what I'm about to ask, because we know the five components of reparations in terms of restitution, rehabilitation, compensation, guarantees of
Guarantees
non-repetition,
non-repetition.
and satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would say my next question could be under rehabilitation or restitution. It could be under satisfaction, which takes into consideration truth, seeking and telling. Yeah. And so to what extent, and this is coming out of the question I asked previously about the nature of the statement regarding Papa Garvey's pardoning. To what extent is there room to push for a recognition on the part of the American government of their criminality against the Garvey movement, against not just the Garvey movement. Well, I guess they've admitted this in relation to like the FBI, COINTELPRO previously, yeah, in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. I don't know the extent to which they've done some admissions, but I was
Well,
going to say
the, the,
that's
the Senate, the Senate Church Committee
yes,
called the COINTELPRO a legal war. Really, they called it a war, but
right, right,
there was
right, right.
no type of reparation or anything like that to the victims of the COINTELPRO. And
Of
the
course,
only two people who were ever convicted of
yes,
COINTELPRO abuses, they were their sentences were commuted even before they
right,
began to serve them.
right.
Actually, I think they were pardoned. Excuse me, they were pardoned before they even began to
Fine.
serve their sentences. So there's a whole hell of a lot on the table with
Right,
respect to what is owed to us.
right,
In fact, on my shirt it says reparations,
yep,
says prison abolition. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yep,
So
yep.
yeah,
Mama Nkechi is a long-standing reparations activist, brothers and sisters. So we'll get her on again just to discuss reparatory justice, and that kind of thing. Yeah, at some point soon. But the reason why I'm asking is because obviously, partly because of the idea of truth seeking and the rehabilitation of the image
yeah.
and person of Marcus Garvey and the UNIA ACL, as well as the fact that it seems to me to be the case that there is a case for damages in relation to the UNIA ACL because
Oh
of the
yeah.
impact, yeah, that this had on the movement, on the organization, and on the Black Star Line.
Yes,
There seems to be a case here for damages in relation to the
yes.
criminality of the court of the case itself. What do you say to
Thank
that?
you. Thank you. Thank you for jigging my memory with respect to
Yes.
that. Because one of the
Mhm,
things that I learned as part of the previous broadcast that you did with the
mhm,
UNIA officials
mhm,
is the fact that there are a lot of documents that were
mhm, mhm.
stolen from the
Yes, yes,
UNIA when Marcus
yes.
Garvey
Mhm,
went into prison
yeah.
in the result. Where are those documents now? Okay,
Mhm,
what is
mhm.
still owed to the
Yeah,
family and to the movement with respect
yeah.
to there is unfinished business since
Mhm,
that era, and it needs to come to light. And
yeah.
also, I want to mention that another aspect of um, truth telling and uncovering information is
Mhm,
just recently one of the ships from the Black Star Line
yeah.
sunken ship was recently found, largely through the auspices of our dear brother in Washington D.C., Kamal Siddiqui, with divers
Yeah.
of a purpose,
Mhm,
divers with a purpose. And
mhm.
so I foresee that there's going to be a lot of attention with this
Right.
posthumous pardon, with we exonerate Garvey, with this claim that somebody needs to make to
Yeah.
officially to the United States government in terms of where these documents, and then the
Right.
sunken ship of the
No,
Black Star.
absolutely. Especially because you mentioned Dr. Julius Garvey and him wanting an admission from the government in relation to the criminality of this case. I think that might be something to push for, like
Yeah,
an actual
so
statement
I don't
that
want to
says
even.
that. You know what I'm
I
saying?
don't even think we need to spend time and energy on. As far as I'm concerned, the fact that they granted
They.
this posthumous
Hmm.
pardon, the
Hmm.
fourth ever, the third
Yep.
to a black person, to a black nationalist freedom fighter. I, as far as I'm concerned, we need to create our own narrative around that,
Right
despite what they
around
wrote
it.
on the piece of paper. You know
I
what I'm saying?
absolutely.
I don't want
I
to spend the rest of
mean,
my legal career trying to get them to now say ABC. Well, hey, I want to. We need to frame their narrative just as we
narrative
have
around it.
exonerated Garvey.
I take
I
your
think
point,
the
Mama,
fact that
and
they did that to me
is
is
admission enough? I,
it,
I,
it,
I,
you know.
I take your point. I take your point. I take your point. All right. So let me bring in the audience, brothers and sisters. I'm gonna take your comments for the rest of the show. So if you want to ask Mama Nkechi a question or make a comment, even feel free to do so. Please just at Kimbunga Media. So I know that you want your comment to be read out, and I will dutifully do so. We want to thank Mama Nkechi for availing herself to us this evening to share all of her legal expertise and her movement experience, brothers and sisters. I'm telling you, you haven't even really got the fullness, yeah, of the legacy of Mama Nkechi in this show. The legacy runs deep, and like I said, another day we're just gonna have to get your story, yeah. You know what I'm saying? What's your story in the movement? And but if you want some of that already, you can check out Mama's book, yeah, Black Power, Black Lawyer. You know what I'm saying? And it breaks it a lot of it down in there, brothers and sisters. So do check it out. Do check it out. Do check it out. Right. Brother Set over there in Trinidad says, um, um, Kimbunga Media most definitely thought the sister was your age. Wonder why she said when you were a child, rather than when we were children.
I love it.
Yes, mama, you know what I mean. As I said, the black door crack, the black door crack. You know what
Hey.
I mean. All right, brothers. I'm just reading through your comments, see if anybody's got a question or a comment for our mama as she's joined us here. Brother Set also says, I just want to express how inspired I am by the warrior lawyer in our midst reinforces my steadfastness on my own journey. Brother Set in Trinidad is also an aspiring lawyer. a legal mind, Mama. So you're giving him some direct inspiration to his personal aspirations there. And so we want to give thanks. Baba Senghor is in the building, and he says, Mama Nkechi always speaks truth to power. She's a legal expert, revolutionary Black Trinity queen, representing Africans at home and abroad. Hail up our big Garveyite sister.
I would say there probably hasn't been not many people other than Brother Senghor in DC who is just consistently over the decades upholding the legacy of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. There've been many in DC, but I gotta put Brother Senghor right up there at the top of the list.
Give facts, Baba. Give facts. Brother Mwaliama Kamau is in the building. Greetings, my brother.
My dear brother, historian.
And he says, how many people in U.S. history have ever received 2 pardons? So I think you've probably already answered that question implicitly, but how many people have ever received 2 pardons? And I'm sure Brother Mwariam was going somewhere with this question, so he probably should.
Yeah, tell him to follow up, because there've only been 4 pardons now issued in U.S. history, and I named the 4 of them. Marcus Garvey was the 4th. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, unless he means we exonerate Garvey. That was a pardon, and then the pardon. I mean, maybe that's what he's speaking of.
Maybe. So hopefully, Brother Mwaliama clarifies. Mama Tendai Johnson, Minister of Education, you know what I'm saying, is in the building. And she says, grateful for both of you and this convening. Mama and son, thank you for accepting your cosmic assignments, Mama Tendai. It's beautiful to have you with us, Mama Tendai.
I walk in her footsteps. I love her
absolutely,
so dearly.
absolutely. And Brother Mwali, I'm not sure if it's the follow-up but I'm gonna read it. Is the brief supporting the pardon application available online? Good question.
If it's not, I can make sure that it is. It might be though. So we can. It's not a secret. So
right. Yeah. Yes, please do.
It might be in Justin Hansford's book. I'm not quite sure.
And I wanted to get the book off my bookshelf as well. I did read from it in our show with our UNIA elders.
You did a couple of days ago.
But it's an excellent book. Excellent book. I read it a number of years ago, and for if people want a brief and also basic understanding of the actual case itself, and why Marcus Mosiah Garvey is in fact innocent, it does an excellent job of breaking it down. Brother Justin is a lawyer. I have reached out to him, by the way, so if we can, we will get him on just to break down the case, the actual details of the case, because he's done so in expert fashion. So give thanks.
Okay, that's what Rodney was saying. Okay, Calvin Coolidge did not pardon him in 1927. Calvin Coolidge granted him a sentence commutation. He commuted his sentence, which allowed him to be out of prison, and immediately exiled him. So that was not a pardon, but thank you for raising that, my dear brother. It was a commutation of sentence.
No, that's an important clarification. Yeah, the commutation essentially means that you're still guilty of the crime. We're just going to charge. We're just going to make sure make your punishment different.
Well, wait, let me just clear that up too. As far as I'm concerned, it's not even that you're still guilty of it. What it does is it cuts your sentence short. See, we read stuff into this that we don't necessarily have to read. There were quite a number of people who received sentence computations, including Leonard Peltier, who always maintained their innocence, that they were not guilty. Okay. But if that's all that's going to be on the table to be offered, should Leonard Peltier have spent the rest of his life in prison based on the technical wording of how he was going to be released? I mean, so
absolutely. Divine
says he has it. He must have the well, if you could put it online, people want to see it online.
And I will definitely share it once it's so once we get the link to that, brothers, that link will be in the show description and the comment section. Brother or sister Divine, thank you, Set Imhotep, for alerting me to this. Thoughts on the Black Panther organization? I'm not sure of the immediate relevance up to this, but feel free to share a thought if you have
only to the fact that Marcus Garvey was the inspiration for just about every single movement that came after him. Every single movement. all roads lead back to Garvey. Okay, so if in that case, in that aspect, the Black Panther Party, it's a direct whatever of the Honorable Marcus. So we know Malcolm X was his mother and father were both, Garveyites, and I had something else on the. Oh yeah, Queen Mother Audley Moore, who we hail as the mother of the modern era reparations movement, was a Garveyite, strong. So all roads lead back. Excuse me, my own grandfather was a Garveyite.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I mean, this is really personal to me because he was beat viciously on the streets of New York, beat because he was in his military Garvey regalia. And he was beat within an inch of his life.
Absolutely.
And I didn't even know all this growing up. I had to dig deep. My own grandfather. So, this is personal as well.
Absolutely. Miriam Williams says, Kimbunga Media, Tenda Mwali, give thanks to Sister Nkechi for steadfast commitment, persistence, and strength. Looking forward to reading the book. Give him thanks for that. My sister. And yeah, we got a couple more minutes, brothers and sisters. Get your comments in now or forever hold your peace. Yeah, forever hold your peace. Mama, we are media here, yeah, and so we understand the value of propaganda and information for our people. And so, as I said, I'm very guarded against inducing any level of faith in the American presidency, in the American government, in the American establishment in general. So I'd like you to give our viewers an idea of what you're still working on. As far as all right, okay.
I live, eat, and breathe reparations these days. And all roads lead back to reparations, because we have not been acknowledged for this historic wrong against us here domestically and as well as globally. So.
Absolutely. Well, we'll bring you on again to talk about reparations. You are one of the greatest minds in our global African community on that subject, and so no doubt we'll feature you again for that. I missed a comment. So from Anthony, from Brother Anthony. Greetings, Brother Anthony. I'll tell you what, Anthony. Please repost your comment, and I will read it. Yeah, that will be our last comment. Excuse me. Oh, I see it now. Sorry. Mama Nkechi is one of the great is one of my great sheroes. Her along with Sister Akusua Njedi, yes indeed. Sister Courage Warriors in the reparations movement. 100%. Thank you for that, Mama. So, I mean, brother, your comment is gratefully received, and we believe in giving our particularly our elders, who have been in the movement. Mama, you have to know about me. The people that I respect the most are the people that were young in the movement, and I can see them as elders still in the movement. And so you have to understand that we have the utmost respect for you around here because we know of your track record and we know of your legacy, Mama. So we appreciate you. Thank you for your work on this particular issue, the pardoning and the exoneration of I'll come into it, of of the most honorable and the most eminent His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And with that, I'm going to hand over to you now so you can share your piece.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I never get a chance to do it because I'm always doing the lawyer thing and all like that. And I never do the teacher, part of me. But I just want to, I'm going to do my poem, The Mighty Marcus Garvey's for young people. But I also want to lift up Brother Imamu Kuumba, who I really learned so much about Garvey from he wrote a book called New African Fundamentalism. I'm talking about way back in the 70s. So this is my poem. It's called The Mighty Marcus Garvey. The mighty Marcus Garvey, if you have ever seen, was the proud black man with the red, black, and green. The mighty Marcus Garvey had a lot of pride. Millions of black folk were on his side. He sailed from Jamaica to New York City. He organized a group in the 1920s, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. To millions was a great inspiration. He had the Black Cross nurses that worked so fine. The Black Legionnaires and the Black Star Line. The Black Star Line was the name of the ships. They would trade with black nations and make many trips. The Black Legionnaires was the army to beat. They trained to fight to set black people free. The Mighty Marcus Garvey had big parades. The foundation of our nation was being laid. The Mighty Marcus Garvey had a lot of pride. Millions of black folk were on his side. He said African people were a mighty race, but we need once more a mighty land base. Let Africa be our guiding star, and then we'll know freedom won't be far. But some brainwashed blacks turned up their nose. The racist court system said Garvey has to go. Back to Jamaica he was finally sent, but as he went, he left us this hint. Look for me in the whirlwind, he said. Look for me in the storm. Look for me all around you, for my spirit will bring freedom to form. The Mighty Marcus Garvey, if you have ever seen, was the proud black man with the red, black, and green. Millions of black folk were on his side because the Mighty Marcus Garvey had a lot of pride. Because the Mighty Marcus Garvey had a lot of pride. Because the Mighty Marcus Garvey had a lot of pride. Thank you. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I put myself on mute so that there were no interruptions and disturbances. I'm going to be reutilizing that all over Kimbunga Media. So thank you so much, Robert, for sharing that and for sharing that book. I'm gonna search for that book, New African Fundamentalism. I'm doing a lot of work on what we call scientific Garveyism.
Yes.
And so I would love that book. Yes, I'm gonna look for that. I'm sure one of my elders would have access to it somewhere about the place. So I'm gonna check it out. Mama Nkechi, we honor you. Yeah, and we thank you for your work, your continued work, and your tireless effort, particularly in regard to this exoneration. So we appreciate you and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Up you
Yes,
mighty
ma'am.
race, you can accomplish what you will.
Ashe. Right, brothers and sisters, that was Mama Nkechi Taifa. I'm sure you appreciate having her knowledge, her wisdom, and her expertise with us this evening or afternoon, depending on where you are on this round sphere we call Earth, brothers and sisters. So as we know, and as Mama has affirmed, the fight still continues. Essentially, the name and the reputation and the work of the most honorable, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, is in the hands of us as African people. That is the essential point. No matter what the American government does or says, brothers and sisters, the responsibility for the preservation and perpetuation of the legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, is our work to do. And Mama Nkechi is doing her work, and we encourage you all to do your work, brothers and sisters. And with that, I say unto thee, Tendai Mwani, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe, Kudzai Muzimu Mukuru. We give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodie, African power and African liberation for all African people. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.